What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Or welcome if it's your first time here. If you like videos about prepping, survival, self-reliance, and other related topics, then be sure to subscribe and turn notifications so you'll be notified each time that I upload a new video. You know, after World War II, the United States was the world's dominating superpower. We were the nation that other nations envied. We were looked at as being the beacon on the hill of freedom and democracy, of prosperity, of production, of a strong economy, of a strong dollar. However, unfortunately, over the decades that's passed since World War II, we have continued to go down. Now, there's been a few ups and a few downs, but overall, the trajectory has been downward when it comes to freedom, prosperity, the economy, the dollar, the American dream. Pretty much everything has been on the downhill turn since World War II. However, in the last few years here, especially the last 4 or 5 years, it's been even worse. It has been sped up, and now the inevitable is obvious to everyone. The crash is going to happen, and instead of being a beacon to the world, for the world to look up to and to strive to be more like, we are now an example, essentially, of what not to do, and what a country should not do, because if you do the things we're doing, it's obvious that it leads to destruction, and that's where we're heading right now. I made a list this morning here. I've got it on my phone of some things that I think are prime examples of what not to do. And our country, our leaders, our representatives are doing these things that's obvious to anyone that they should not be doing. It's obvious, deliberate takedown and destruction of this country, and it's in full force. Number one on my list here is outsourcing manufacturing. The United States, after World War II, we were manufacturing, we were productive, we were a productive nation, we were an economic superpower plus a military superpower. However, over the decades, they've outsourced pretty much everything. All manufacturing has been outsourced. There's a few exceptions. We manufacture a few things here in the United States and do a few things, but overall, we're not the manufacturing superpower that we once was. We import just about everything. The only thing the United States exports essentially is currency, weapons, and war for the military-industrial complex. But we import pretty much everything from China, Taiwan, and some other nations, but mainly China. Even medications, needed medications here in the country, they are manufactured and imported the United States from China, a communist nation, a nation that is obviously our enemy. They want to be the dominating superpower, and one could argue that they actually are now the dominating military and economic superpower in the world, and I think that is actually the case. But we have our manufacturing exported to other countries, and then we ship it back over here to the United States. And I was working at a flooring company one time, and they were talking to us and telling us that they could send the wood from the United States over to China, have it manufactured in China, the wood all finished and made into flooring in China, and then shipped back to the United States cheaper than they can make it here, because there's so many rules and regulations and things like that to go by, so many taxes and things, and higher wages. So these companies have been pretty much incentivized to put manufacturing overseas. And you would think that our leaders, our representatives, would have enough sense to know that putting something as critical as our medications, antibiotics, life-saving medications and antibiotics, putting that manufacturing in the hands of another nation like China isn't a good idea. Same thing with, the microchips. 90% of the microchips are made in Taiwan, and those are essential to pretty much everyone in the world now, but the main base is right there in Taiwan, which is essentially an extension of China. And there's so many things like that. I mean, you go to Walmart and look at what they have. Everything pretty much is made in China. made in China, imported to the United States. We had no manufacturing base here in the U.S. And if war breaks out, actual kinetic war, and we need to manufacture things quickly, it's going to be difficult to do because we've outsourced pretty much everything here in the U.S. Definitely a recipe for disaster. And guys, next on my list is trying to police the world and to dictate our will on the world through military power, police actions, and sanctions, and using the dollar to police the world. Right now, the United States has over 750 military bases in 80 different countries around the world. Why is the United States putting military bases in 80 different countries around the world? Why do we have over 700 military bases? I mean, it is ridiculous. Think of all the resources expended to keep those bases going. And it's unnecessary, in my opinion. Why are we trying to police the world? Why are we trying to dominate policy in other countries? And if you look at all the wars that we've had since World War II, they've been police actions. It's all been for the benefit of the military-industrial complex. Like I said, we manufacture currency, weapons, and war. The military-industrial complex, and that pretty much runs this country. But the United States has weakened our military, our actual economy here in the United States, all besides the military-industrial complex aspect of the economy. We've weakened ourselves, we've weakened our defenses, and we've made the United States, or our representatives, our leaders, has made the United States weaker and a bigger target of the world, of all of our enemies around the world. And by having all these military bases in other countries, and even in countries that have said, get out, we don't want you here. We have military in Iraq, and they've said, get out, we don't want the United States military here any longer. We have a military base in Syria, and they've said, get out. All we've done by all these military bases spread around the world, and all these police actions and drone strikes and bombings and things, is made more enemies, made the world look at us as, pretty much terrorists. Where we say, our media and our politicians say everyone else is the terrorist, everyone else is the axis of evil, but everyone else is seeing what we actually are. We have been aggressive. The United States government has, the United States military has pretty much attacked everyone, bombed everyone, drone struck everyone, killed civilians. And we keep doing this. Now all these bases spread around the world, sanctions. And that has made the world hate, or much of the world hate, the United States. We made more enemies, and at the same time we weakened our own defenses here in the United States. Can you imagine if we had just a few bases in key places outside the country and had most of our military resources here in the United States, concentrating and focusing all the resources and spending, instead of trying to dominate the world, focus that resources and all that spending in actually securing the United States from outside threat? But that's not what we do. What other country in the world sends billions and billions and hundreds of billions of dollars overseas when our own country is collapsing, our own infrastructure is weak, our roads are falling apart, our border is wide open? I'll talk about that more here in just a minute. But what country sends billions upon billions of dollars to pretty much everyone? If you look back at the countries the United States has sent money to, and even our enemies, like Iran, we sent money to Iran, we sent money to everyone all the time for decades here. But it's been more obvious and in our face here the last couple of years when it comes to Ukraine. But this is nothing new. It's been going on for a long time. And that's why we have this huge national debt, that and all the, like I said, military bases and resources to keep those going around the world and all these wars and things. That's why we have a $34 trillion national debt. And with $34 trillion in debt, our own infrastructure here in the United States is crumbling. Our roads are a mess. The border's wide open. I mean, all kinds of things can be fixed in the United States. But instead of doing that, they prefer to send billions to Ukraine, billions to Israel, billions to pretty much everyone, everywhere, besides putting the resources here. and they take that onto their national debt, which the taxpayer pays through inflation. No other country does that, but it benefits the military-industrial complex. And that's why this is being done, in my opinion. That and to weaken Russia, but it's been, over the decades, just specifically, in my opinion, to feed the military-industrial complex, to keep that going. So we have so many bases everywhere, so many wars everywhere, because war is big money. They have to manufacture weapons, planes, jeeps, cars. So it makes big money for the military-industrial complex. If you have peace, there's no war. No need for weapons. So the military-industrial complex loses money. So they will send Ukraine, another $60 billion, and that is laundered back through to some of the politicians. Obviously, some of the Ukrainian officials are corrupt. Obviously, they keep some of that currency and buy themselves new homes and new yachts and things outside of Ukraine. But a lot of that money comes back to the military-industrial complex to make more weapons, to send to Ukraine, to cause more death and more destruction. They don't care about the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people as long as they are making more profit. The military-industrial complex. Everyone should read the book by Smedley Butler, War is a Racket. It is about 60 pages, takes about 30 minutes to read at the most for most people. And it's a really, really good book and an eye-opener of how all this works. War is a racket. It's a big money-making scheme that actually benefits nobody but the military-industrial complex, and costs a lot of lives, destruction, and no one cares as long as the profit keeps coming in, unfortunately. That's what all this war is about. All these bases are about, to spread all over the world. All these police actions has been pretty much, in my opinion, to feed the military-industrial complex. Weapons of war, lords of war. And guys, next on my list is the open southern border. The northern border is open also, but we see more about the southern border right now, but both sides are opening up and people are coming through. And our representatives, our government, our leaders refuse to close that down. They actually fight to keep that open. The current Biden administration is fighting to keep that open. What nation, what leadership does that and lets millions upon millions come in here unless they're trying to destroy the country on purpose? And it's a prime example of what not to do if you want to have, a country. If you want to have a strong, prosperous country, you don't have open border policy, inviting everyone in and putting all those people coming in on public and taxpayer-funded housing. Give those people a prepaid debit card, cell phones, free medical care, pretty much diplomatic immunity to do whatever they want to do while they're here in the country. They can drive without a license, they can do all kinds of crimes, theft, robbery, shoplifting, whatever. And in certain locations like New York City, those sanctuary cities, they pretty much have diplomatic immunity. What country does that unless they're trying to actually destroy that country? What leaders and representatives allow this to happen unless they are actually trying to destroy the country? And that's exactly what is happening. There's nothing wrong with immigration if it's done the way it's supposed to be done. They had before, when people would come in, you had to come through, you had to be checked out medically, you had to learn English, you had to have ways to support yourself. In other nations, you have to show that you can support yourself. I've looked in to 2 different countries in South America, and you have to be able to prove that you can support yourself before you come there, before you can be a citizen of that country. You have to be able to support yourself. However, in the United States, come one, come all. And we see crime going up, and you look at all the resources that have been expended on all these people coming over here who haven't contributed anything to the system and who aren't contributing anything to the system. They will tell us we need these people to do farming, to pick crops and things. I'm sure we need 40 million illegals over here to pick crops. It is ridiculous. It really is. And all it's causing is a drain on the system, drain on the resources, crime going up, housing. It is ridiculous if you think about it logically. But still yet, I'll have people argue with me that if you don't want the border wide open, that you're a racist somehow. No, it's just common sense. If you let everyone come over by the millions, it's going to take away especially if they're not working or bringing anything with them, skills and things, and a way to support themselves. It's obvious that it's going to be a drain on the system, and it's going to be a drain on the medical system, the food supply, housing, and not to mention, all the currency that the United States having to print through the Federal Reserve to support all these people and to pay for all this. And that is going on to the national debt. And everyone will pay for that through inflation. It is unsustainable, and they know it. It's a cloud and pivot strategy. Flood the country with dependence and make things so bad, the economy collapses, everything collapses, crime goes up, people are in misery. And then when people are in misery, they will reach out to the government to come in and save us. And they will come in and save us with their iron fist and the Great Reset. That's what's going on, in my opinion. And guys, another thing that anyone should be able to see, is it productive and just makes the powers that be stronger and using it against us, is the fact that they are manufacturing, instigating, and encouraging more racism, more divide. They're trying to put a wedge between everyone that they can because it gives them more power, but it also weakens the country overall, in my opinion. They drive a wedge between, men and women. The feminist movement. They try to drive a wedge between different religions. They try to drive a wedge between people of different skin colors. Anything they can drive a wedge between and cause more hate and division, they will do that to keep themselves in power, but overall it weakens the country because we have no sustainable base in reality, in my opinion, in this country anymore. Everything is being twisted and maneuvered and molested to turn everyone against each other, to give these politicians, these people in power, more power and to stay in power, but overall it weakens a nation. And guys, not only that, they have systematically destroyed any trust we had in this country when it came to the justice system and the political system. We see now how things work in the justice system. We see they use the criminal justice system to prosecute their enemies, to persecute their enemies, to persecute their political rivals. We saw what they did to Alex Jones, for example. He was fined without even really a court trial. He came in and they said he's guilty. You owe millions of dollars. We see what they did to Donald Trump in New York City. Owes $400-something million, I think that it is. And it's all was a sham. But yet, here we are. And they've destroyed any faith anyone had in the electoral system. And it's all on purpose. In my opinion, they want to show us they are in control. They are in power. And I think that's one reason that they chose, Joe Biden to be the president of the United States, just to prove that they could put anyone they want in. So they chose the most corrupt, perverted, inept politician that they could find and put that person in office, just to show everyone that they could, and to undermine, the whole political electoral system in the United States. And now most people have realized what it actually is. It is corrupt. They are not voted in. They are selected and appointed by the powers that be, in my opinion. And guys, another thing that they're obviously doing that any country shouldn't do, unless they're trying to destroy themselves, is they destroy it on purpose. Patriotism, or they're doing their best to do that. If you look at the schools, especially the colleges, the people going to college and the schools, you're also taught that on television shows, by our politicians, by the music industry, by entertainment, that you should hate your own country. You should hate the United States. You should hate capitalism. And that's why we see this big push from this younger generation wanting to turn this country into a socialist country, for example. That's why Bernie Sanders, was going up in the polls all the time until the Democrats wanted to put Hillary in. And we see, again, how the electoral system works. They place who they want to in those positions. But Bernie Sanders was a open socialist, and he had a lot of support from the younger people because they've been brainwashed to hate their own country, to hate capitalism, and it's on purpose, again, to weaken the country. Everything that's being done is to weaken the country. It's obvious. They can't be, our politicians, our leaders, can't be that inept, that incompetent. Not all of them. Some of them are, in my opinion, but it's on purpose. These politicians aren't running anything. They're bought and paid for, and they're being used to destroy the country. Because they want to make it so bad. They want to make everyone's belief in the system go away and then see that it's corrupt. And if people have no faith in the system whatsoever, no faith in the politicians whatsoever, and everything is, and no faith in the rule of law, none of it, and everything is so bad with crime and things in the economy, the people will beg for someone to come in and fix it. And the answer is the Great Reset, giving the government more power, more control, more authority. And they were promised if you do that, they'll come in and fix the issues. It's a systematic plan to destroy the once greatest nation in the world and to bring it down slowly, until right now we're seeing it sped up and going over the cliff. But it's all to make everyone have no faith in the system whatsoever, to see it's corrupt, to see that it's what we once thought is all gone, to destroy everything from the ground up, to bring in millions upon millions of dependents, to have more crime, a worse economy, war everywhere. And it's all by design. Because if people see everything going on, and people are hungry, starving, they're being raped, they're being murdered, they're going to say, we got to do something about this. Come in and fix it. And when they offered us a solution, the solution is going to be what is essentially communism, or even worse, a dictatorship ruled through AI. Because we see this now, using AI to control and to monitor everything. We see it in China. They want to put a system here in the United States, like they have in China, of control, monitoring, and control social credit score systems and things like that. It's like they have in China. And that's what they're working on. And that's why we see all these decisions being made, all these policies being put in place that are detrimental to the country, and that anyone should be able to look at and say, that's not good at all. That's not the way you run a nation. But here we are, and they're doing it. And it's to destroy the country. Anyway, if you liked the video, give it a big thumbs up. Thanks for watching. I'm the Creekmore out of here, and I'll see you all in the next video, hopefully.